we'll get straight into it. And in the meanwhile, while I begin this presentation in class, I'd love for you all to share your questions in the chat as well. So let's actually reviewing the basic how we use money in the world. So here's, I'd like you all to just take a look at this picture over here, this which you can see on screen right now. You have some of y'all might not have heard of these words, income, and especially the word income. Income is basically the money that you yourself earn, that you get. Some of y'all might have heard of this. So this is a basic review for everything. So we first earn our income, and we do this by things like allowances. Allowances could be money that you get from your parents, could be money that you get from someone else for doing a specific task. Sometimes you get allowance in order to spend it in a certain way. So allowance is a lot of things. In general, it's the money that you yourself get, you earn. Now, investments. We're not going to go too deep into this right now. If you want to go deep, I'd love to go deep. But I want to cover a lot of as many topics as possible. So if you have questions about any specific word in this entire class, then I'd be happy to talk to you through it. I really want you all to have questions. The more questions you have, it means that you're actually learning. So like this. So income is in the form of allowances, investments, or jobs. The amount of money you make for doing the task. If you're a doctor, you make money for taking care of patients. If you're a bus driver, a school bus driver, you make money for driving kids to school or driving people around the city. So, and you make money in the form of cash. That's the hard paper money that you have. You make money in the form of check. That's money that people write on a piece of paper and you can exchange it to the bank. Or you could give it to the bank and you'll get money. You'll get a specific amount of money in your bank account. And of course, probably one of the coolest things is digital payment methods. This is where you can just carry around a phone and you can basically make payments in the same way as you could if you had cash. Or yeah. And of course you have credit cards as well. So yeah. So income in short is the amount of money we earn. And the key thing here is when it comes to financial literacy, it's about how you spend your money. It's about making wise, smart choices with your money. And that's how you get rich. You get rich by knowing how to use your money wisely. So that's what we're going to be covering. And with the income that you make, the allowances, the investments, the job, we either save it, which is usually in the form of a bank account, or we spend it in certain ways. So as I just mentioned, for savings, we would either save it in a safe place, especially when it comes to cash, or store it in a bank. Now, banks, just for a more fancy term, it can be called as a financial institution. So yeah, banks are the most common form of financial institutions. And you should think of these as various different buildings that are dedicated to helping you save your money. For spending, our income generally goes towards things we need, especially like clothing or food or water. And those, for example, your house has electricity because you're paying money to a company, a person that's buying electricity to you, or a group of people that's buying electricity. And of course, we spend things on many different things. Some of y'all might spend things on furniture, on anything you do online. You know, if you guys play video games, you guys might spend money there. So spending money can take a whole lot of different forms. Financial literacy. But there's one thing I'd like you to note down. I hope you're taking notes when you feel like. If there's just one thing I want you to note down, it's this. Financial literacy is the ability to understand, effectively use various financial skills. So this includes personal financial management, budgeting, and investing. So I know a lot of these words might seem really fancy. You guys might have never heard of these words before. Whatever you understood from what I just said, please write it down. And by the end of the 6 weeks, you're going to be pros in this, and you're going to understand basically everything we say. So, and you might even be able to give your parents or adults financial advice too. So, yeah, I'm going to repeat what I just said in case you'll want me to. And I'll actually put this in the chat so you can just write this down. Financial literacy is the ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills, including personal financial management, budgeting, and investing. Yes. They involve having the knowledge and skills to make informed financial decisions and manage your income to benefit both your present, how you are right now, and your future, what you want to become in the future. And what we will be learning today is notice how we should spend and what we should save. So, in a nutshell, That right there is financial literacy. I'll give you all a few moments to pretty good. So we're gonna go to the next slide now, which is savings. So I'm gonna be asking you guys questions in between, so please do pay attention. So like I mentioned earlier, savings are kept most of the time in financial institutions, mostly banks. But this can also be saved at home. So, cabinets or, boxes that have like a key, like where you generally keep things like emergency funds or college funds or even a house fund when you're ready to buy a house. And you can, of course, keep these things in banks as well. So not all your money goes to savings. Jobs usually pay you every two weeks. So these are some examples of your savings. So we just say jobs usually pay you every 2 weeks for your work, which is when you can grab a small amount of your money to put to your savings. So not all of your money goes to your savings. That's a small amount. And the amount of money that does not go to your savings depends on what your personal goals are. And, here's some examples of personal goals. In example one, your mom is currently saving money for your college tuition. So she's the one putting savings. So in many cases, mothers do that because they really want us to get a great education. And college tuition, what in this example the mom is saving money for, it can be really expensive, especially in non-community colleges. And college tuition is something that she'll have to pay in a couple of years rather than extremely soon. So it's a long-term cost. So each month, in order to ensure that she's able to save enough money, each month she sets aside at least $200 to help you get through your first year of college. And it's enough to pay for the amount of money you'll have to spend in a couple of years down the line. This is just one example. You guys don't need to write this down. Just understand, this example and ask me questions. Now another example. So in this example, your brother or anyone's brother is saving money to buy you a Nintendo Switch, which costs around $270 buy someone else one of those. So it costs $270 to buy in October. And he only has 4 months to save. So he saves around $40 from each of his job's paycheck in order to be able to afford this Nintendo Switch. So this is another example of saving. As you can see here, the console itself costs $270. And that's pretty expensive. So in order to pay for that, each month he has to save a smaller amount of money, $30. And this goes on for around 4 months. And by that time, for each of his jobs that he saves money for, he'll have enough money to pay to actually buy that Nintendo Switch. So these are two examples, and I'm sure y'all can think of many more. So in fact, something fun you could do before next class, you could create one of these examples, in your own life. Whether you've saved money in the past or something that you might have to save money for in the future, and you could share it with Mariana during the next class. So yeah, that's about savings. Let's actually go over why you should save money. So there are many pros of saving money every time you earn, either in a financial institution or basically either at a bank or in a safe place at home. And you'll be able to reach your goals a lot easier if you save money. Because think about it, if you spend all your money in one place, you'll put aside very little money in the future, which means you'll have very little money spent on important things when you need to. So by saving money, you'll avoid the stress of having very little money to buy something. So saving money is a great practice. And the more you save, the better. And it's a long term. So you need to save. It's a long term, and it requires determination not to spend all that money, to keep it in a safe place, so when you really need it, you have it. And another benefit of saving money is if you have an emergency, just a medical one, if you need treatment to treat a specific, condition, disease, you'll have money to use if you're low. If you're low on spending money, you'll have that money accessible, and you won't have to borrow it from someone else or accumulate debt, which is basically, in very simple terms, it's when you borrow money from a bank, but you cannot pay that money back. So yeah. So if you have an emergency for whatever reason, if you fall down and you need to go to the doctor's office, you'll have enough money to pay for that. And finally, if you keep your money in a savings account, such as a bank, you'll actually earn money for not spending it. It's called interest. Now, it's a very cool concept. I I'd love for y'all to take, do some research on it, take a closer look at it. It's basically where the bank pays you to keep your money in their, in their security, in their account. Yeah, under their business. So it's a very fascinating topic. And I highly encourage you to take a look at it because you're getting paid for not spending your money. And great. So, okay. There are a few, vocabulary words that you should, know. And I highly encourage you to at least write these words in yellow down, on a piece of paper. You don't need to write the definitions. It would be great if you write the definitions, at least in your own words, maybe in one or two words. For example, variable expense, changing costs. You could write it, or fixed expense, non costs that don't change. So find it however you like, but at least write these down so you remember it for next class and even after this class is over. So yeah, let's talk about spending money. We just talked about savings, we're talking about spending. So we all have things like food and bills that we need to pay for, electricity, water, a new car, even if any of y'all want a Lamborghini in the future, you'll have to spend money to get a Lamborghini. So even if you have money put aside, we always have things we need to treat ourselves to. Well, yes. Some of you that might be eating out for dinner, going to watch a movie, many different things people do. So there are some important vocabulary terms that we need to establish. So a fixed expense, please write this down. Fixed expense is a cost that does not change from month to month. So more or less the same. This can include the amount of rent you pay for your apartment building, your house. It can also include your car payment. So for example, if a Lamborghini costs $200,000, that's a fixed payment. It's not going to change. After you pay it, you're done paying. In many cases, what some people do is they split that expense across multiple months. For example, if it costs $200,000, some people might spend $40,000 in one month and $40,000 in the next month. The key thing here is it's always $40,000, $40,000. It doesn't change. That's a fixed expense, so it doesn't change from month to month. And a variable expense is a cost that changes depending on how much you use it. If you use a lot of water, if you wash your hands with a lot of water in, let's say, January, and you use a lot less water, wash your hands February, your water bill will be higher in January than February. The same thing for gas. Gas is basically how much, it's basically how much you drive your car. It can also be the amount of cooking you do. So these are the things that change based on how much you use it. And as a result, the amount of money you have to pay for those also change. And then needs are expenses, but these are actually like necessary for your survival. They're like essential things, water, food, groceries. And then there are also wants. Wants are things you really don't need, but people purchase them because people like them, like Netflix, or going to the movies, theater tickets. These are things we don't really need to survive, or we really don't need. We do it because people like it. People like to do these. Okay. All right. So one more word to note down. There might be a couple more, but this is a very important one, and it's going to be really useful. Even today, tomorrow, and even 10 years down the line, if y'all grow up. And this is but. So this is the main vocabulary term of day, and everything we just talked about is related to a budget. A budget is a financial plan that estimates income and expenses over a set period. Okay. What would a budget consist of? You can create a budget in a couple of steps. You first find how much money you made. So this is your income, how much you're making. This could be from doing chores, working at a store, at a gas station, a grocery store, doing some cool stuff, programming. You make some amount of money off it. And then usually the money is almost the same, unless you've taken days off, days to rest or vacation, or you work for more time than usual, in which case you'll make more money. So with this amount, you subtract the amount you pay for your expenses. So the amount that you need for survival, or the amount that does not change each month. That's your fixed expenses. So to recap, you subtract the amount of money you make, or you subtract all the money you spend, which does not change, from the amount of money. So a lot more sense, after we talk about this. And with this money, with the amount that you have remaining, you'll set a goal to spend or spend less than your variable expenses. Just, take a pause here. So with the amount remaining after your fixed costs, you'll set a goal to spend or spend less than your variable expenses. So your fixed expenses, the ones that don't change, and your variable expenses, the ones that change. And after this, you'll likely have some money left. And then, in which case, you'll decide whether you want to spend that money on entertainment or things you don't really need, your wants, or what you're willing to save. And I think we'll revisit this. Ariana will probably talk about this a lot more in the upcoming classes. And this is great to know, and we'll definitely come back to this. So, in fact, there is an example right after this. So this is a very cool table over here. And as you can see here, just take a good look at this. If you know how to take a screenshot, you could probably take a screenshot of this page. And it's a very good example. So these are all the different costs. Your house, the money you pay for your house, $1,500, your bills, utilities and terms for food each month, your transportation, as you go to college, you'll start making about student loans. So yeah, $400. And then your savings, how much money towards your savings, your retirement. Yeah. When you start growing up, you may start thinking about this, your fun, all that, we each have different things that we do for fun. And they often cost money. So and then you're giving in travel. So in case you like to travel around to places, the $300 would fall under there. And as you can see here, if you're a nurse, around $5,000 a month, this would be your income. And everything down here, most of everything here would be your expenses, aside from this one, which is your savings. So yeah, this will make a lot more sense as you keep getting used to it. Don't feel overwhelmed. And yeah, okay, I think at this point, let's take a quick break. I want to ask you some questions. And yes, so let me call on someone I haven't called on before. Okay, Nicholas, can you tell me what is a need, basically? Let me put in the chat. Need. You could unmute, that'd be great. If not, you can be in chat. And yeah, a need for are you able to what a need is? Or going, Nicholas, if you'd like to, you can, but there's no pressure whatsoever. Okay. So this is a pretty good example for everyone, but how a budget works, and it's very cool. Maybe if you guys want to, after the class, you could create your own budget. You could pretend like you're a doctor or whichever job you want to pretend with, and you could create a budgeting sheet. And you could probably bring it to the next class as well to show us.